Our journey from monkey to monk is soon bound to end as the gods are no longer taking the BS of humans. At the Council of Valhalla, the gods had gathered to decide the fate of mankind. Zeus, a goofy-looking fella, leads the meeting of gods. He asks whether should they eliminate mankind or let them live for another 1,000 years. Shiva, coming straight from Adventures of Sinbad, chimes in, commenting, "Yep, these little rascals must die because in the past 1,000 years they have not shown any intention to reform themselves." Aphrodite, with her goddess glow and humongous personality, supports Shiva's claims, stating the world had become unpleasant. From forests disappearing, animals going extinct, to trash spreading. The shit is too much. The other gods agree with Shiva and Aphrodite's statements because, to put simply, they are simps. And when simps get powers, they become dangerous, as we see when they all vote to end mankind. Zeus prepares to announce the final decision. However, one of the Valkyries, Brunhilde, interrupts him, stating, simply ending them would be too crude, and proposes the gods demonstrate their mercy and power by testing mankind into mortal combat, or as Brunhilde puts it, Ragnarok. Turns out, the gods had made a handbook when they created humanity, and one rule in it stipulates, mankind gets to have a one-on-one battle as a last stand to see if they deserve life. However, the thought of a human defeating a god makes the gods laugh. Yet the baddie claps back, mocking their wish to avoid direct competition because they are afraid. Suddenly, the room goes quiet for a second before the beta gods start shouting angrily. Zeus accepts the proposal and tells Brunhilde to select 13 humans for the tournament. The first to achieve 7 victories wins. And thus, here we are, at the Valhalla arena with Heimdall in the center, announcing the start of the upcoming epic battle. The winner will be determined by the opponent's death. The first representative of the gods is the strongest Norse god and Marvel's favorite Big G, the god of thunder, Thor. His opponent, the most powerful Chinese warrior of all the historical figures known to man. He is Lu Bu. Heimdall blows his horn, announcing the start of Ragnarok, or in this case, the fight between Thor and Lu Bu, which to everyone's shock, starts a bit whack as neither fighter takes a guard stance and simply walks towards each other with lowered weapons. Now, with both lads in each other's personal space, Lu Bu strikes with his spear, while Thor blocks it with his not very canon MCU hammer. Anyways, when Thor blocks Lu Bu's attack and pushes him back, he jumps to return the favor. Yet, it too gets blocked by the opponent. With normal bonks deemed useless, Thor uses electricity and grabs his hammer with both hands to fight at full power. One kid narrates, in ancient times, Asgard was surrounded by high walls that protected it from invasions from the land of the giants. But if there is anything we learn from another show, is that big walls fall hard in face of titans. And when this one fell, Asgard was on the verge of destruction until Thor alone opened the gates of pain on those sorry-ass wannabe titans, single-handedly obliterating all 66 giants. His killing technique was later called Thor's Hammer. Hence, seeing Thor taking the stance, all gods anticipate Thor's hammer dropping down hard and ending Lu. When young Thor swings his hammer, a shockwave happens and sends Heimdall flying, while Aphrodite's airbags go berserk to protect her goddess from impact. On the other side, the young Valkyrie falls on her knees, believing it's the end, to which Brunhilde smirks, telling the young one, stand tall and observe the moment, as this is where the creators meet their creation at their best. When the dust clears, Lu is seen standing tall, pushing back, and slashes him, surprising all gods. Blasting us to another backstory, this one follows a young Lu who is traveling in search of the strongest opponents, until his name eventually spread across all of China. And all those who stood in his way were eventually exterminated. After 30 years of traveling, Lu realized no one on Earth can match him. Lu Bu was eventually captured, because life became boring knowing he was the strongest. Back in the present, Zeus gets surprised there was a human weapon capable of challenging a god's strength. Looking at Brunhilde, he then realizes what is going on. You see, before Ragnarok began, Brunhilde knew it was going to be an impossible fight, as no human weapons stand a chance against the gods' weapons. That said, if they also have a weapon of the gods, things would be different. Therefore, Brunhilde called upon her sister Randgris and asks her if she knows of Thor's sacred weapons. Randgris tells Big Sis about the iron gloves, which can fend off any attack, and his hammer Mjolnir. Brunhilde finds those two weapons as the dirtiest cheats of all sacred items. But to defeat Thor, they need to overcome them. She asks Randgris if she will dedicate her body to that purpose, to which Randgris agrees. Lu Bu's halberd starts to glow, making the gods realize it's a Valkyrie. Brunhilde explains that the Valkyries have a hidden power, which transforms their body into sacred weapons able to rival the gods' weapons. Each Valkyrie has a special ability when turned into a weapon, and in Randgris' case, it's Shield Breaker. Hence, when Lu Bu disarms Thor and strikes with his halberd, Thor blocks using his iron gloves, but it starts to crack, and then it shatters into pieces, surprising the gods. Meanwhile, Mjolnir starts to heat up and melt the ground. Suddenly, a heartbeat can be heard loud and clear. To everyone's shock, Mjolnir is throbbing. The hammer's outer shell cracks. Zeus explains that the gloves are not there to protect Thor, but to restrain his power from crushing it before it awakens. Thor then removes the remaining glove and tosses it aside, creating a small crater when it lands. He then lifts Mjolnir and asks Lubu to not die. As Thor prepares to swing with his full power with awakened Mjolnir, the gods get excited as it will be for the first time they witness this attack. The mad lad throws Mjolnir at Lubu, which according to legend it never missed once in 100 throws, but not this time, as we see an athletic Lu moving swiftly, bending down. Lubu then rushes towards his opponent before noticing Mjolnir from behind and dodges again. Thor then grabs the hammer, revealing that he didn't throw it to hit Lu, but to use its momentum and speed when it returns to deliver the ultimate blow. Lu, being the ultimate Giga Chad, blocks it on the expanse of his legs, to Zeus' joy since he's a huge advocate of brutal head-to-head fights. That said, the man is no longer able to walk. As Thor lifts his hammer again, Lu Fanboy cries his heart out, knowing he will see the death of his master once again. Luckily, Lubu's trusty steed comes into the arena to save us from Fanboy screams, who then inspires everyone to continue cheering for Lubu. And so, the strongest man on Earth manages to once again stand up and mount his loyal friend. Back in the past, when Lu realized he was the strongest, there was nothing left but to swing and practice his weapon technique for the one day he will face a mighty foe. After several years of practice, Lubu developed superhuman grip and arm strength that was able to split the sky. He calls this secret tech Sky Eater. And for the first time, Sky Eater is seeing the light of the day, exciting Thor, who throws his hammer and prepares for the final stand. The attacks clash, causing a shockwave and a burst of lightning to pierce the cloudy sky. Sadly, the halberd breaks, resulting in Randgri's returning to her normal form, while Lu's arms shatter. Knowing he used everything he had, the Giga Chad feels joy and charges one last time at Thor, who beheads him with one last swing. After the spectacular fight ends, Heimdall announces Thor as the winner of the first battle in Ragnarok, and the gods start celebrating their first win. Looking depressed, Thor heads towards the exit of the arena, but gets stopped by Lu's army led by Chen, who states that it's meaningless to continue living without their lord and wishes to join him, and so they charge head-on with no fear of Thor. The young Valkyrie wonders what will happen to Lubu and Randgri's. Brunhilde explains this is a battle of souls, and once their souls crumble, they cannot recover, reincarnate, or be saved in any way. They cease to exist and become dust. However, as Mommy Hilde puts it, we must move on and fight, as we can't slay a god with tears. They then return to their room to select the next fighter. After the arena has been restored, Heimdall appears to announce the fighters for the second round. Animals come out and surround the arena as he introduces the first man created after God's image and charged with the original sin. He is a man amongst men, the father of all mankind, Adam. Heimdall proceeds with the introduction of the strongest Indian god, Shiva. However, no one comes out of the corridor. He then receives a message. There is a change in the fighter's order. 3D Hermes appears playing on the violin a symphony to introduce the leader of the gods, a god amongst gods, Zeus. The Valkyries are shocked, while the humans wonder if the old man can fight. As Zeus continues to dance, his muscle starts to enlarge, becoming like the typical buff Greek god he is. With the second round about to start, Ares takes a seat next to his brother Hermes. Zeus asks Adam if he won't get a godly weapon since without it, the fight will end in an instant. Adam points to the sky and states that the Valkyrie is already here. Riding on a Pegasus, Reginleif makes her entrance. Reg jumps down and tells Adam to give her his hand, adding that their hearts must be on the same wavelength for her to become part of him. When they touch tips, she turns into a brass knuckle. Zeus comments that Adam has picked a nice weapon, to which Adam agrees and refers to Zeus as pal and asks where is his weapon. Zeus replies, I will be fighting bare knuckles, as he wants to hear the boy's bones creak. And so, Zeus makes the first move, and in about 0.01 seconds he closes the distance between him and Adam, throwing a swift punch, but Adam dodges. Zeus keeps increasing his speed and uses a move called Meteor Jab, yet Adam keeps dodging with ease. The cycle continues with Zeus increasing his speed more, making the fight look like an average Dragon Ball showdown. The cycle, however, ends when he follows the jabs with a kick called Divine Axe, going for Adam's lower body, to which Adam jumps over it. While Zeus gets more excited, he finally faces a worthy opponent. He also states that just running away won't get Adam anywhere. The father of all men responds, I know, and then pulls the same first move old Z did, closing the distance in 0.001 seconds and causing a small wound on Zeus' cheek. Adam then keeps increasing his speed and copies Zeus' meteor jab, followed by the divine axe, but unlike Zeus, his combo lands. The young Valk gets surprised that Adam could copy a god's techniques. Mommy Hildy replies, Adam was created in God's image. Therefore, he can copy all the techniques he sees with his ability Divine Reflection. Impressed, Zeus compliments Adam's abilities before starting his next special attack. Using unique footwork at high speed, Zeus lunges with a flying kick at the first man model, to which Adam once again dodges with finesse and uses his copying abilities to goofily warm up his legs, kicking Zeus back to a wall. Adam states he doesn't want to do this, but it's a competition and apologizes to the Grandpa Zeus. Hearing this, Zeus gets even more buffed and prepares a new attack, one that Adam can't copy. He learned this move in the Battle of Gods when a younger Zeus defeated his opponents without getting hit. Now that Zeus had learned his father's technique after defeating him, he named it the Fist that surpassed time, which is, as you guessed it, a blow that defies all laws of time. Thus, when he starts charging it, time seemingly stops for everyone except him. It seems to be the ultimate move that will win it all, or so Zeus thought when he ran at the naked boy, to find out that not only he dodged the hit, but also copied it, causing Zeus to fall to the ground, surprising the crowd that didn't know what happened. Ares realizes that even if he trained for 1,000 years, he could not defeat Adam. Runhilde comments Adam's strength comes from his hatred for the gods. In the distant past, Adam lived with the animals in the Garden of Eden. However, as the known story goes, Eve was trialed for eating the forbidden fruit. The mother of all denied the accusations, but the serpent doubled down, saying, I saw her with my own eyes, sinking her fangs in it. However, in reality, the serpent tried to take Eve for himself, but she remained faithful to Adam and escaped him. So he bit the forbidden fruit and blamed Eve for it. Thus, the heavenly court sentenced Eve to banishment from paradise. After hearing about it, Adam entered the court with 2 baskets of apples, then proceeded to take a bite from each one and spit them, shocking everyone in court. He later approached Eve and told her that if she leaves, he will leave with her in the most Chad way possible. It was so sweet. The serpent couldn't handle it, so it transformed into monster form and attacked. But Adam pulled the classic copy no jutsu, slicing him instead before descending with his beloved down to earth. Back in the present time, mankind celebrates believing they scored their first win. However, as Heimball is about to announce Adam as the winner, Zeus stops him, twists his head back to normal, and states he underestimated Adam, then asks the man to tell him the real reason he came to fight, since he doesn't feel the fire of hatred in his eyes. Adam states it's not hatred or revenge, but the desire to protect his children. Consequently, mankind felt his love and all came together praying for their father to win. Zeus admits that Adam is indeed powerful, yet he also admits that it was foolish to think he could win with just that. The godfather of the cosmos starts crushing his own body, remarking that he didn't want to do it, as it's brutal for him, but there is no other way. When he finishes, Adam realizes the threat is real and instantly holds his guard up. Everyone starts to tremble due to their instinct for danger kicking in. Finally, the smoke clears, revealing Zeus' final form, a thin, old, creepy man that skips leg day. In this form, Zeus can stay for about 12 to 13 minutes, but due to the damage he took, Hermes believes he only can maintain it for about 5 minutes. Zeus collects his energy by compressing his muscles and releasing it in his fist with every ounce of speed. However, when the old-timer uses God's true right, Adam copies it and hits him with it. But this time, Zeus continues to throw punches undeterred, while Adam continues to copy and hit back. Suddenly, Adam starts to bleed. Runhilde realizes he is overheating from copying the endless amount of Zeus's punches. Loki has figured it out as well and knows Adam is reaching his limit, yet hope is not all lost for mankind as he states that Zeus' body is also reaching its limit and is overheating as well. As their fight continues pushing our boy to the edge, a drop of blood from Zeus falls on his eye, breaking his vision, as well as causing him to bleed from his nose, eyes, and ear. This little push is what old Z needed to land his first hit. After becoming blind, Adam takes a defensive stance to fend off the barrage of jabs the old man is throwing at him. Seeing what is happening, mankind starts to ask Adam to just give up or for the fight to be stopped. Adam hears a baby cry and states that as the All-Father, he will protect him from scary things. Therefore, he takes another hit from Zeus to the face on purpose, so he can grab him by the head and start blasting away. Blow after blow after blow, this fight turned into a dogfight, where the one who can withstand most punishment will win. Eventually, Adam punches Zeus to his knees, shocking everyone, as Zeus states it's over and mankind starts to celebrate. However, they soon notice that although Adam is standing up smiling, he is dead. Zeus states that before he crumbled to the ground, Adam had already died but had never surrendered, throwing punches from beyond the grave. Zeus congratulates Adam and states that if it was a contest of endurance, he would have won. Then the people's champ, along with his bound Valkyrie, turns into dust and Heimdall announces Zeus as the winner. But this time, instead of despair, all humanity stood tall as their father left behind a great inheritance, the power to rebel against the gods and the unprecedented confidence to do so. The girls receive a message informing them the next fighter for the gods is Poseidon. Being the older brother of Zeus, the group's morale drops to zero until an elderly Kojiro Sasaki appears and states he will go. Still, the girls wonder if he is really Kojiro, as he is quite old, and the souls summoned to Ragnarok take their strongest form, regardless of their age at death. However, when Brunhilde gets up, she accidentally pushes a milk jar off the table. Using his blade, Kojiro captures all the spilled milk and drinks it. Brunhilde realizes he is the real deal. Kojiro explains, although died 400 years ago, he never stopped honing his skills, and his evolution still hasn't ended, making this form and age his peak. Brunhilde asks Harist if she can go next as well, to which the dual personality mommy agrees. The arena gets remodeled and now is surrounded by water, making some of the gods realize who the next fighter would be. Heimdall introduces Poseidon as one of the most fearsome among the gods. As Poseidon comes out, he splits the water, creating a path to the arena. The gods go silent as they don't want to incur his wrath. Heimdall then proceeds to introduce the fool who will face Poseidon. Arriving on a small boat, Kojiro is introduced as the greatest swordsman, or as most know him, the world's greatest loser. Kojiro Sasaki, who even in defeat or death continues to evolve, is the #1 swordsman under the sun. And hearing all that smack talk, mankind couldn't but wonder if old Kojiro stands a chance, especially when the annoying Miyamoto keeps claiming that it's a mistake choosing him, stating that his father Musashi Miyamoto should have the title of the greatest. Suddenly, Kojiro draws his sword and calms the waves, startling the gods. Heimdall gives the signal for the fight to start, yet no one is making a move. Ares guesses that both are waiting for the opponent to enter their range and counterattack. Hermes finds it funny and corrects Ares that Poseidon isn't hoping to counterattack, he will simply crush any bug that enters his range. Incidentally, Kojiro creates a mental image of him attacking Poseidon, but ends up killed. As he keeps doing that, he starts to sweat, making some people believe that he is getting exhausted just by standing, but not Hermes, who realizes what Kojiro is doing and praises his intellect and foresight. That said, in his mind, Kojiro had already died 18 times. Brunhilde tells a story of a young Poseidon and Adamas, his and Zeus' older brother. Long ago, the god of conquest couldn't accept that Zeus is the greatest god, since he is the oldest of 3 siblings. Thus, he freed the Titans and bent the most terrifying beast in heaven to his will. Later, he went to meet Poseidon, explaining that the 49 gods that backed Zeus are on his side, and as well as some of the Olympian gods like Hermes, adding that he wishes Poseidon to side with him as well, since no older brother should serve their younger one. Poseidon finds Adam's actions pathetic, which only angers the dark god. Poseidon states that gods don't gather armies, plot schemes, nor rely on others, since they are gods and are perfect. As Poseidon starts to whistle and looks aside, the dark god of conquest gets angry and attacks him, wanting Poseidon to look him in the eye. In that instant, Poseidon looks into his eyes and kills him. Poseidon notices Hermes and tells him that one of the 13 was not a god, and Hermes agrees. Consequently, Hermes states that the fearsome part of Poseidon wasn't his overwhelming strength, but how his words hold so much power. If he deems something to not be, it simply gets accepted by others and becomes reality. Back to the main event, Kojiro notices that Poseidon doesn't even look at him, so makes it known as he sits on the ground while wondering what to do, as he doesn't want to die. We then take a look at a young Kojiro Sasaki, entering a prestigious dojo late with no care in the world, so he gets scolded that he has the audacity to show up, to which Kojiro takes it as a compliment. Frustrated, the big guy with the yee-ass haircut forces young Kojiro to spar with him. Kojiro manages to block his moves, but is eventually disarmed and gives up. The guy's father comments that Kojiro has no talent and is pointless to keep him in the dojo. Yet the headmaster is not convinced, so he asks Kojiro why he gave up that fast. Kojiro explains that even if he fought the guy 100 times, he won't win, and if he kept fighting, he could get injured, and that would affect his future chances. Later, Kojiro spends his time in the forest, thinking of how he can win the next match. After getting inspired by nature, he decides to eat lots of meat to gain muscles, observe, and imitate animals. 6 months later, Kojiro returns to the dojo, and everyone is surprised at how muscular he became. Kojiro states he had to fight his boy 100 times in his head before he was able to defeat him. Therefore, he longer needs to face him. The man doesn't take it nicely and attempts to attack Kojiro, but in young Kojiro's eyes, he sees his ass getting split in half, so he admits defeat. Kojiro then asks the headmaster to fight him. The old-timer agrees and takes a battle stance, which makes Kojiro excited. Several years passed and Kojiro never returned to the dojo. Sadly, the headmaster had lost his vision, which hinders their rematch. However, when the old G steps into Kojiro's house, he instantly realizes how hard he was training from the marks and scratches. Facing Poseidon, Kojiro doesn't want to die but believes he can't simply surrender like in old times. Kojiro decides to make the first move with a technique he created. He jumps and swings the blade from his back. Poseidon dodges and starts his attack. However, Kojiro attacks one more time and Poseidon dodges it again, yet not swiftly enough, as our boy manages to ruin the blonde boy's haircut, which prompts him to look Kojiro in the eye, making our boy pleased. Poseidon moves toward Kojiro, shocking everyone, since the Great One never attacks, but this time he did. Using a barrage of attacks, Kojiro dodges. You see, Kojiro had already made an image of Poseidon that he fought a gazillion times in his head. Suddenly, Poseidon starts to whistle and charges at Kojiro, who knows the attack but can't dodge, because it's much faster than he predicted. After landing the hit, Poseidon mocks him, stating that he thought he was able to read his opponent's movements. The crowd gets excited and calls Poseidon the god of gods. However, just a cold look from Poseidon makes them all quiet. Kojiro questions why he won't accept the cheers from his friends. So Poseidon states that gods don't gather armies, plot schemes, or rely on each other because they are perfect. Hearing what the gods are, Kojiro comments, "It must be depressing." Not liking what he heard, Poseidon jumps in the air and unleashes a storm of attacks, but our boy manages to predict and avoid all attacks. Hermes comments that the depth of Poseidon's skills is not known by the other gods. That said, Kojiro predicts Poseidon's movement and believes he got him. Poseidon then surprises him and moves under his blind spot, avoiding Kojiro's attack. The GOG gets behind him and strikes, breaking Kojiro's blade. Witnessing that, everyone had thought the fight was over as the human lost his sacred weapon. Kojiro explains he wants to surrender, but not this time. When Kojiro looks at Musashi's reflection on his broken blade, he recalls their fight and how he wanted to surrender. But as he was having so much fun, he couldn't stop, so they fought to the death. The honorable duel ended with Musashi striking young joyful Kojiro with his duel style, sending him to the afterlife. Back in modern times, Kojiro asks Poseidon if he ever practices his swing or if he ever wept tears of gratitude to a foe who made him stronger. Picking up his broken blade, Kojiro states, it's the combined passion of his past opponents that keeps him going stronger. To everyone's shock, his broken blade starts glowing. Due to Hara's dual personality, the broken sword reforged to become two, one with a short blade, while the other is longer. Kojiro and Poseidon's fight continues, as Kojiro again predicting Poseidon's attacks. Musashi tells to the kid that even after death, Kojiro kept dueling him 1,000 times, resulting in his muscles remembering the moves and techniques down to a tooth, making them his own rather than imitating them. He also adds, Kojiro now has far surpassed him. As our Wonder Boy cuts Poseidon all over the place, mankind cheer even harder for their god slayer. However, everybody is a gangsta until Poseidon whistles and combs his hair with his blood. He tells Kojiro he is arrogant to believe that he can read his moves. Then, in an instant, Poseidon attacks and hits Kojiro. Even though Kojiro can see them coming, he is not able to avoid them. Poseidon then attacks so fast, the movement creates a visual dome around Kojiro. Kojiro manages to block most of the attacks but feels as if he is drowning like a rock under Poseidon's pressure. While sinking, he feels the support of his former opponents and swordsmen, who know that Kojiro has yet to show his true skills, reminding him how his win always comes after a defeat. Poseidon increases his attacks, but Kojiro not only reads the lightning fast attacks but also closes the distance to Poseidon and cuts the boy's right arm holding the trident. Poseidon grabs the broken trident and attempts to strike Kojiro. However, having achieved the ultimate state of enlightenment, Kojiro is fast to cut the left arm. Yet Poseidon doesn't give up and grabs the trident with his teeth. A last desperate attempt, which the best swordsman in the world ends by using Musashi's move, Kojiro Cross, slicing Poseidon in 4, achieving the first win for humanity. Shocked, Heimdall announces Kojiro as the winner of the third round. With Poseidon reduced to dust, the gods cannot believe a human had killed a god and sit silently in shock. Brunhilde is happy, believing this will wake up the gods and make them see the potential of mankind. A path opens for Kojiro to leave the arena, but feeling exhausted, he starts to fall. Chris turns to her normal form and captures Kojiro. It seems she has returned to normal. In Zeus' room, Shiva and Loki are angry at what happened. Loki wonders why Zeus is so calm considering his older brother died. Zeus states the human was simply stronger. He admits that mankind is indeed strong and that Brunhilde truly intends to defeat the gods. Thus, they need to take this seriously. Shiva decides to go next, but like the last time, Zeus interrupts him, stating that the Greek god died, so another Greek god must take revenge. Therefore, to recover their pride and avenge their fallen brother, Zeus appointed a Greek god to go on the 4th round, whom Brunhilde refers to as Brother Hercules. So Brunhilde wishes him luck and they go their separate path. While going up the stair, the Jojo bro gets confronted by Loki. The eccentric fella questions the Giga Chad loyalty as like the Valkyries. He too is a human and loved humanity. Hercules, though, pushes the annoying fella aside, telling him that he's a champion of the gods and will represent them properly. However, he's also a warrior that has vowed to fight for justice. So after winning the match, he plans to talk to the gods and ask them to spare humanity. Hercules meets Jack the Ripper, the incarnation of evil, which made him mad after learning that Jack is his opponent. Likewise, the humans are also concerned and not happy with their champion, as they don't want to be represented by a serial killer who is currently flexing his heavenly weapon, a pair of scissors that can cut through a steel post like a hot knife going through butter. That said, the weapon doesn't intimidate the hero god, so Jack resolves to do the only thing a low-life scum can. He runs away at top speed. Enraged, the hero god follows him through a dark alley, something his parents clearly didn't teach him how to do. That said, it turns out Jack wasn't a low-life scum after all. He ran away so he can offer his opponent a cup of tea before they duke it out the gentleman's way. However, Hercules is a brute raised in the old times. He doesn't appreciate fine tea, so instead Jack gives him a dozen finely made knives hidden above him. Yet to his shock, they didn't do damage to Hercules. Seeing this, Jack decides to pull a Batman and fly away, yet little did he know a man that doesn't skip leg day can jump 5 stores with an oversized baseball bat in hand, which he uses to break the divine scissors. Now back on the ground, Hercules demands Jack to surrender as there is no way in hell he can win without his weapon. In response, Jack does what Jack knows best: throw kitchen knives at people. Surprisingly, this time the knives damage the hero god. The madman then reveals he lied before. His real divine weapon is the bag on his hip. The leather bag allows him to create anything he wants as long as it's not bigger than it, of course. The little Valkyria wonders why her big sis chose this evil, cunning man to be their champion. Hilda Mame explains to her that it's because, for one reason, evil, which humans are far better than the gods. And so the humans, criminals, and lowlives started cheering for their champion as he bombarded Hercules with waves of knives, but they weren't enough to put down the big dog, who unleashes one of his labor moves, the Nemean Lion. Luckily, though, he uses his big umbrella to block most of the blast damage. Meanwhile, on the side of the gods, watchers notice that Hercules' tats are starting to get bigger. Ares explains before Herc became a god, he completed the 12 divine arts, but those powers came with a great price. Every time he uses one, his tattoos spread further, inflicting pain, a pain so intense the average god would collapse. When the tattoos cover all his body, Hercules will die." End quote. In a flashback thousands of years ago in Greece, a little kid is being bullied by 2 guys for his calf. Alcides, later known as Hercules, helps the kid. The chump gets his ass beaten, but unlike his bones, his heart remains unbroken, which proved to be a bit inconvenient being the weakest boy in the city. Yet this didn't stop Alcides from hitting those push-ups and becoming better. The 2 bully kids approach weak Alcides, teasing him, then pointing at Zeus's statue holding a cup supposedly filled with the god of gods' blood. A myth says when a true hero drinks the blood, he will acquire Zeus's strength, but if a false hero drinks it, they will die. Alcides, not lacking in the IQ department, realizes he has to become stronger on his own like a true Giga Chad, and so he pushed himself till he became the strongest in the land of Thebes. However, the land of Thebes is currently facing divine judgment. As we see 2,000 years ago, the gods had a meeting to decide the fate of humanity, ruling they must be eradicated. Many jump at the chance to commit mass genocide, but the one who takes it home is none other than Ares, who is responsible for that spot, and so he descended from the heavens along with his special forces to take all the humans' lives, old and young. All the humans waited for their end, shaking in fear, all but Alcides, who waited for Ares at the gates of the city, ready to bonk him, yet Ares wasn't there to play games and immediately introduced the young boy to his heavenly toes. The people watched hopelessly, accepting their fate, but Alcides stood back up again, gaining the admiration of Ares. However, that wasn't enough for the young boy. Thus, Alcides took the blood of Zeus and drank it as if it was fine wine, which definitely wasn't, as we see the young man's body not liking this filth inside it. Ares continued his march as if nothing has happened before suddenly getting stopped by Alcides, who now has white long hair looking like a caveman rather than a Greek god. The soldiers jump at the half-naked man for offending their leader, but the young man easily dispatches them all before fighting it out with the blonde boy. Suddenly, Alcides' eyes turn black like Zeus's, and that's when the OG comes down to stop his kids from doing more damage. Zeus offers Alcides to join them and become a god since he doesn't want to leave him down Earth and become a problem later on. Alcides accepts to quote-unquote stoop down to the god's level so he can protect his people and the humans, dubbing himself as the righteous protector. The hero god later finished his labors and got crowned, as well as named by Zeus. And thus here we are, Ares looking at his best friend fighting Jack the Ripper, who is still throwing knives left and right while jumping around. When Hercules closes the distance, Jack jumps away as if he is flying. Turns out Killer Boy had set up wires all over the place to not only boost the blade's speed but also to make their direction unpredictable. With no other choice, Hercules unleashes the fifth labor, Stamphalian bird, reflecting the knives where they came from. Hercules demands Jack to give up again, but the madman looks up with a sadistic smile on his face while flexing his Sharingan, which seems to be able to perceive people's emotions as colors. Then he starts to sing The London Bridge Has Fallen Down. Speaking about the song, the first time Jack heard was when he was looking through the trash for food. He found a half-eaten loaf of bread that made him happy, unlike the fat chef who was pretty angry that the kid is back stealing food from the trash. Yep, that's how bad this dude was, and young Jack saw through him with his eye. He saw him change from red, the color of anger, to blue, the color of feeling superior, when Jack went to beg for forgiveness. Jack's mother used to work in a brothel, but that didn't bother the young lad not one bit, since he always managed to find happiness whenever he saw his mother's golden colors that indicate pure love. Sadly, good things don't last. One day after returning to the gentleman's club, he found his mother screaming and crying. The fair maiden tells him the man she loved long ago got married. Later, when Jack was trying to comfort his loving mother, she lashed at him like a witch that lost her broom and threw a hissy fit, wishing she hadn't given birth to him, and threw books around hitting Jack in the head. That is when the young boy realized the love Jack always saw wasn't meant for him but for another man. He was just a tool meant to connect her with her love. Seeing his mother turning all red like the other filth that always patronized him, he told his mother, "It's okay, I will fix you." The young boy proceeded to strangle the wench till her color changed from red to purple, the color of fear. It was the first time he saw it, and he immediately liked it as it looks far better than red. The no longer lovely lady pushed Jack back, which was a big mistake as he used a kitchen knife to cut her with such precision. You would say this isn't the kid's first time. With his mother dead, the young went looking for his father to say hi and recite Shakespeare for him before reuniting him with the whore in the afterlife. The young lad then takes his leave, as well as his father's hat and name, Jack. Now back to the present time, Jack the Ripper, a fine gentleman who dresses well, explains to the Rock how he can see people's emotions and that he is eager to see what color Hercules will turn to when he kills him. The hero god pulls a classic "No You." Jack jumps up using his Batman gun but falls midway through the climb, so the hero god uses this opportunity and swings his stick, destroying the building. When Hercules goes for the killing swing, the watch Jack is holding on brakes, allowing the madman to use it as a flying killing razor desk, so Hercules raises his hand to block it confidently since no mere mortal weapon can harm him. Shockingly, the destructive disc manages to cut Hercules' arm. All the gods widen their eyes in shock and utter disbelief. How did that happen? They wonder. Suddenly, the hero god realizes what Jack's true heavenly weapon is. The trickster god explains to Ares the Volundra Jack uses is the gloves, and whenever he touches turns into a divine weapon. Loki continues, he made us believe that the treasure is the bag by attacking Hercules over and over using knives stored in it. He did this so he can land one critical strike. Everything so far was a bluff. Brunhilde explains to the young Valkyria that she forced a lowly Valkyria to pair up with Jack, who wasn't ready to take no for answer. She became his gloves, dubbed Saber Rattler. Upon realizing his best friend is trapped in a city made to kill him, Ares sheds a tear for him, but Zeus's fist comes flying to stop that tear from hitting the ground, telling the wuss not to give up hope. Although he lost an arm, that doesn't mean he will lose or waver. And indeed, the hero god stood his ground and stopped the bleeding. Jack applauds him, amazed by the glorious pride colors Hercules is emitting. Hercules summons the Hound of Hades, his 12th labor, turning the fight into a battle of time. The hero god has to win or the dog will devour his body. Thus he wastes no time and goes to the offense, yet Jack manages to dodge everything as well as block a powerful punch. Jack pulls another Batman, but this time Hercules is hot on his trail, punching him back down and impaling him in the process. Hercules declares victory. Now there is nowhere to hide in the city, so our champ pulls a reverse Uno card and destroys the building behind him. Then he runs at the hero god to use him as a kettlebell launcher to get himself away from the scene. The people deduce that Jack has planned all this from the start, his jump as well as his fall. The gods cheer for their hero to get back up, and so Hercules stands back up shining gold more than before. The Goliath and the Mad Gentleman then go for close hand-to-hand combat for the first time, and as you expected, Hercules punches right through Jack's shield. When Hercules goes to deliver the last punch, Jack dodges, looking for the perfect timing, the perfect position for an opening to slit the god's neck, but Hercules dodges at the last second and counters back. Everyone believes the fight is over, the god celebrates, and the humans question why they put their hopes in the hand of a serial killer, but not the fair maiden who still sees the best in Jack after all that time. Suddenly, like the Undertaker, Jack rises back up humming his tone. He limps his way slowly toward his opponent with the metal rod in hand. Now face to face, both champs swing their Hail Mary. Jack misses, Hercules connects, Jack falls, Hercules raises his hand, Jack swiftly ducks and then delivers the last hit. Hercules deduces when Jack held his wound he wasn't trying to stop the bleeding, but to soak the gloves and turn his blood into a weapon. The hero god embraces the serial killer and tells to love humans, thanks him for the fight and wishes Brunhilde was watching him, asking her to save humans before disappearing. As Jack leaves the arena, he remembers the hero god wishing he can see him again. Sadly though, his feelings swiftly changed back to normal when the humans hero god lived among started throwing trash at the man who just saved humanity. On the other side, Ares weeps for his best friend while Loki analyzes what Jack did, admiring his cunning and trickery. But for Zeus, all he can think of is that his side lost another match, tying the results 2-2. Loki heads to see Buddha. The meeting is filled with suspenseful moments as Loki suspects Buddha has betrayed the gods, believing he gave the Valkyries a pass to his spirit realm, so they empower their weapon form. However, Buddha disses the Norse god, so the latter gets in his face and cuts through the chase, asking him if he's a traitor. Not intimidated by the edgy kid, Buddha stood his ground saying, "What if I am?" Sadly though, the Mexican standoff gets cut by a group of bozo gods, the 7 gods of fortune. They look so goofy, even Loki, who's on their side, dissed them. When a wacky Yakuza-looking fella tries to press the god of enlightenment, he gets put back in his place by the lollipop stick. Kojiro, the number 1 under the sun, joins Buddha's side, seeing he's outnumbered. The Yakuza fella points out they are still outnumbered. Yeah, big mistake, as 2 other Japanese fellas, Kondo and Soji Okita, join in the fun, resulting in a very badass standoff. The goofy Yakuza have had enough of the chit-chat, and Soji opens fire at Buddha, but the god of drip dodges the bullets like Neo. Loki walks up and gets his blades and starts swinging. All the fighters dodge, while Okita blocks one attack and faces the trickster god with a devilish smile on his face. Sadly though, the fight gets cut by Zeus and Odin. The fiery lads get back to their place and the crows start talking shit. The goofy god doesn't like, so he pulls the gun on the bird, only to be put back down when Odin speaks for the first time since the series started, ordering the lesser god to stand down before emitting a powerful aura that shakes the whole place and destroys the glass above them. Seeing this, Loki takes his leave, as well as the other gods, who tell Buddha to be careful in the future, but the man doesn't show them attention as he peels off another lollipop. The human fighters also take their leave after Kojiro apologizes if he offended Buddha by stepping up to help him. Zeus heads out to watch the next match, leaving Odin behind, who for some reason charges his aura, making facial expressions as if he was taking a massive dump. Meanwhile, Brunhilde is entering the room of the next human champion, a giant masculine beast having a nap with some ladies. Brunhilde wakes and makes them leave, then she wakes the beast, and let me tell you, he is not very pleasant about it. The beast's name is Tameemon Raiden, the greatest sumo wrestler of all time. He tries to raise Brunhilde, but she tells him she won't be his partner, it will be Thrud. The third Valkyria looks down on the big man, saying, "You didn't expect a monster, did you?" However, to her shock, Raiden is into big women and immediately jumps on her castles to prove a point. This classic Kazuma move managed to melt the heart of the strongest Valkyria, who now became one with the strongest sumo wrestler. Back in the battlefield, shaped like a sumo arena, the announcer calls out the first competitors, while sumo wrestlers show support to their man by stomping the ground and making Aphrodite go, jiggle, jiggle. Raiden enters the arena like a boss with the Volunder red lines covering his body. Then his opponent makes his entry on the back of an elephant. Yes, people, the god of destruction turn has finally come. Before the fighting starts, Shiva works the crowd while Raiden throws salt over as a ritual before every sumo fight, and then resumes to take a traditional sumo stance, which made Raiden's next move quite shocking. The unrivaled one started the fight with a dropkick. Shiva manages to gain balance, but then Raiden goes for another hit. This man is wasting no time. Although Shiva managed to block the punch with one of his arms, Raiden still counters and brings the destroyer god down to his knees to deliver a knee to the face, something that is illegal in the UFC. Unlike here, where the opponent has 4 arms to block it, to then hit back as if nothing happened. Shiva is impressed by Raiden's strength, getting him interested in the fight, just like the crowd cheering on the fighters. But before we continue the battle, it's flashback time. Back in 1767 in a Japanese small town, a 3-year-old Raiden was not able to walk since his birth, yet his mom stayed optimistic and prayed for him. One day when his parents came back home, they were in shock seeing their son standing up against the wall. The mother joyfully encouraged the kid to take a small step forward, and when he did, Raiden turned from a My Hero Academia kinda looking character to a Baki the Grappler kinda looking character. You see, this happened because his muscles were so powerful, they smashed his bones. However, what saved his life was more muscles. Let me explain. To restrain Raiden's muscles, his body produced new muscles and created what could be called a shell, otherwise known as the 100 Seals. And for the first time in his life, Raiden has released the seal with the help of Valkyria power as a Volunder. The unrivaled wrestler managed to control his muscles for the first time. Yes, that means the man won all of his sumo matches without even going all out. With the 100 seals broken, Raiden warns Shiva not to break too fast as he himself doesn't know what will happen using his full strength. And what followed was a heavy punch, barrage of blows, and a close line sending the destroyer god to the ground. When Raiden walks up to deliver the last hit, Shiva headbutts him and punches him back to then respond with his own set of blows that the wrestler notes to be looking like cannonballs. Luckily though, our champ is a tough cookie to crack. He managed to catch one of Shiva's arms. Raiden breaks it by pumping more power into his arms. It seems now he can control his muscles and how to steer the strength behind them freely. Shiva goes at Raiden swinging wildly till he manages to land one hit that pushes the beast back. Shiva's punches have become heavier, Raiden notes. Yet with all the martial arts techniques under their belts, the lads resolve to headbutt their way to victory and brain damage that triggered some of Shiva's good old memories. Long ago in the land of India, the gods' pantheon was made up of thousands of gods, all fighting to take control and unify India, yet none succeeded so far. However, in a far corner, two unknown gods, Rudra and Shiva, were shilling, dancing with the animals and beating other gods that dared to enter the god of destructions and the storm god's domain. After beating them, Rudra hits his boy with some Martin Luther King bars, "I have a dream." Shiva laughs at his boy for talking like a human. So the man headbutts him and continues to tell him that his dream is to climb the highest mountain in the land and unify the land in the process. Thus, the pair's adventures begin at the lowest levels of the mountain. They fight other gods looking down on them, beating one after another and massing fans marching behind them, fans whom they defeated and entrusted their hopes and dreams on their shoulders. Their climb continued pretty well. At a high level, Rudra faced Indra, the god of thunder, beating him in a tough fight that the series didn't bother to show, but what they showed was the teabag dance after winning. After defeating 11-15 gods, the pair finally stood at the pinnacle admiring the view, yet the view wasn't enough for Rudra, who wanted to test his strength against all the gods including his boy, but Shiva doesn't want to fight his best friend and tries to talk his way out of it. However, knowing Rudra is a stubborn man, Shiva concedes and the fight begins with both men touching hands before throwing fists that echoed through the land. Eventually, the fierce fight was reaching its end. Shiva is whopping Rudra's candy ass so bad, Shiva couldn't bring himself to continue, so he takes a knee, but before saying "I quit," Rudra concedes the match. Now, on top of 11-16 gods, Rudra transfers the dreams and hopes of others to Shiva, the #1 god of India. Back to the present, we see Rudra joining the other gods of the Colosseum who cheer for him even loudly upon seeing their supreme leader, moving his hip to the rhythm of the universe. Unleashing the secret art on Raiden, the latter can't do a thing but defend against the barrage of blows of Shiva, raining upon him from all sides. That said, the unrivaled wrestler smiles with half of his face looking like a roadkill. Likewise, the sumo wrestlers are smiling happily for their boy as the time when he fights to his heart's content with all his might has come. You see, back when Raiden was a young boy, he loved sumo. But sumo didn't love him back, meaning all the kids avoided him after he beat the strongest kid in the town so bad, they all became scared of him. His mother, though, cheered him up, telling him his strength is a gift from the gods and he should use it to help the helpless. After that pep talk, Raiden grew up as a kind man that helps all the village folk who loved him for his kind heart. Sadly, though, one day a volcano erupted and destroyed all the crops. As a result, the village started starving. So at the age of 17, Raiden decided to leave the village to secure food and money for them. The future sumo star managed to enroll in a local sumo dojo. The trainers tell Raiden to go next, but the man doesn't want to, fearing he would hurt his opponent. Hearing this, Ozeki, a short king, steps in to spar with him. Raiden is still reluctant, so Ozeki tells him if he doesn't go at him, they will send him back to the village. Hence, Raiden dashes at him, expecting it to go right through him, which shocks the latter when he gets manhandled for the first time. After multiple times trying to take down the short king and failing, Raiden falls in love with the sport and Ozeki takes him under his wing to train him properly. On his debut, Raiden shocked everyone with how easily he managed to lift his opponent and throw him out of the ring. As the wins kept on coming, the food and money kept going toward his village, saving it. At the age of 21, he fought over 250 matches and won the majority of them, only losing a couple on purpose. but the people knew that he was doing it against opponents who were too weak to compete. Therefore, Ozeki and the rest of the sumo guys cry in joy as their boy is finally free from his shackles. And so the champ made his entrance again, powering up, controlling his muscles, and transferring the power to the palm of his hand to deliver the ultimate open palm thrust, Yakagarasu, destroying the god of destruction Shiva. Or so we thought. Shiva still manages to stand back up, missing 3 hands. Zeus comments, if that powerful hit was a direct hit, Shiva's head would have been blown away, not his arms. On the other end, Brunhilde also notes, Raiden is under so much pain, his body is falling apart due to the recoil of attack. If it wasn't for Thrud, he would have exploded now. Shiva compliments his strength and the support Raiden has behind him, just like how Rudra and the 11-15 gods backing him. Thus, Shiva shoves his fingers into his chest to stimulate his heart. This secret move will unleash more power into Shiva's body, but the downside though is that his body will burn. With both fighters on the brink, the fight continues. Raiden blocks a kick, but it burns the muscles surrounding that area. God Flaming God of Dance continues his dance of destruction while Raiden counters when he can. The sumo wrestlers cheer their boy, giving him the energy to stop a punch with his head damaging Shiva's hand. However, Raiden feels he's reaching his limit, so he decides to pull one last ultimate open palm move. Shiva, not being a wuss, stands his ground to take the hit head-on. Hand versus foot, the foot wins. Yet Raiden refuses to fall on his knees even though his hand is blown up. Instead, he thanks Shiva for enabling him to go all out. He has zero regrets and can die with a smile on his face. Raiden then asks Thrud to let go, but she refuses, saying, "Don't be silly. Long ago I vowed when I fall in love with someone, I will never leave his side." Raiden thanks her and then asks Shiva to finish it, which the latter does, showing admiration and respect for the unrivaled Rikishi. The gods discuss the fight. Ares thinks Raiden's mistake was fighting as it was a sumo match, but Hermes disagrees, saying if that mortal had fought like it was a free-for-all to the end, no matter how superhuman his muscles were, he never would have been a match for the greatest brawler ever, Shiva. It was his discipline and practice that brought him so far. On the other end, the sumo wrestlers cry for their fallen brother, but the Short King tells them, "Why are you crying? Raiden put all his might into the sumo he loves so much." Meanwhile, Brunhilde not only has to put up with losing a match, but also a crybaby, so it was understandable the way she opened her room in anger. But I tell you, what she needs right now is some of that tasty sweets Buddha is having. Zeus tries to, but the drip god doesn't share. Zeus then informs Buddha that he wants him to be the next god fighter and tries some intimidating tactics on him, which Buddha answers with softness, not fear or weakness, softness. Elsewhere, we see the young Valkyria looking for some bandages for her big sis. In the process, she stumbles into a convo between the fortune gods, talking about how they will take care of Buddha next time. One of the fortune gods catches the little rascals eavesdropping. She tries to weasel her way out of the situation. Luckily, she gets saved, but none other than the serial gentleman Jack. P.S. There was a pounce clip at the end of the series showing Buddha entering the fight as the humans champ, pissing off all the gods including Odin. The end.